more confusing, or at least esoteric. Mishum delay nashiv lahu ruach tzfonis. The northerly wind didn't blow. There's something about the northerly wind that is necessary to heal wounds. It's hard for me to believe that this is literal, but listen what the Gemara says. The Tanya, we learned in the Brisa. Kol osan arboim shana shayiso b'midbar. Those 40 years they were in the midbar. Lo nashva lehem ruach tzfonis. This northerly wind did not blow. My time or why? Iboy sema. If you want, I'll tell you mishum de nizufim hayim. Because since the Chet Egel, we were shunned by Hashem, or maybe even the Chet of the Meraglim, that nizufim hayim, we were shunned by Hashem, and v'bayis semadolo nifdor anone kovod. The wind didn't blow so that the anane kovod that surrounded the camp should not disperse. Okay, so let's see what's going on over here. There's nothing to me that the Gemara says that is satisfying per se on the surface level.
So the anani hakavod are depending on winds blowing it? It's pillar of fire.
Listen, this HaKadosh Baruch Hu is keeping us alive in the midbar in the most miraculous fashion.
I always envision it like its own ecosystem.
Whatever it was.
So one more miracle is not going to make a difference.
Yeah, he's keeping us alive. He couldn't make this wind blow and the clouds not blow away. And he told us, follow me in the midbar. You have not have to be sent to the dry cleaners. They did not wear out. Right? Nobody had a corn on their foot. Right? Nobody had an ingrown toe. Nobody had anything. So for a mitzvah to enter into a covenant with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and we're not held to account. There's nobody that is criticizing Klal Yisrael. Klal Yisrael, why didn't you want you Moshe Nefesh to do bris milah? Whatever it is, it's clear to me that HaKadosh Baruch Hu did not want us or expect us to do bris milah until we went into Eretz Yisrael. That there's a connection between bris milah and bris haaretz. That I don't know. I wouldn't have a good shot. Somebody had their hand up? Yes?
With regard to the first reason, where they say it was dangerous and that's why they didn't do it. But we know that Hashem got angry at Moshe Rabbeinu because he didn't give a bris to his son.
Right.
When he was in the midbar.
Right, for the same reason.
For the same reason, he said it was dangerous, and he almost got killed for it.
Right. That's very good. Very good. She's a wife. Good. We're proud of her. Yeah.
Is it possible to say that Hashem wasn't so sure he wanted to keep Klal Yisrael until the 40 years were up, because there was the Egel, there were other things that may have led Hashem to say, I want. How many times did Hashem say, I want to destroy these people?
But we had a brisbane of seven.
Yeah, but HaKadosh, but not these people. HaKadosh Baruch Hu said that I'll tell Moshe, I'll build a new nation out of you, let me kill off these people. But then HaKadosh Baruch Hu granted Moshe's tefillah, and he said, no, I'm not going to.
When was that?
What?
When was that?
That was still by Har Sinai, by the Chet Egel.
Wasn't by the name of Rita, or wasn't by the...
No, it was in the second year. It was in the second year. So it's mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling why they didn't do bris milah. But now they come into Eretz Yisrael and they do a mass bris milah. Okay, give us ho'arolos.
Who knew how to do it?
What?
Who knew how to do it?
They knew how to do it. Right? I mean,
Messiah, they had a Messiah.
yeah, they knew how to do it. Yehoshua was there in Mitzrayim. There were people who were there in Mitzrayim. They knew the Torah. They knew how to do it. Charvos tzurim. There were flint knives made out of sharpened stones. They knew what they were doing. I love the name. Give us our rolos, but I'm not going to go into it. Okay, so that's bris milah. That's an enigma. It's a conundrum to me. Now, then you get into the Korban Pesach. We do the Korban Pesach. The Chazal tell us that since we left Mitzrayim, this was the second Korban Pesach that they did. There's one in Pashas Bahalosa, which was the second year after we went out of Mitzrayim. And it was the second year we went out of Mitzrayim, and we actually did one in Mitzrayim, and then we did the second year, and then we didn't do it again until we came into Eretz Yisrael. Now, why? So there's a machlokes. One man, the Omar, says that actually they weren't chayiv to bring Korban Pesach until they went into Eretz Yisrael, until after, now mitzvahs that have to do with coming into Eretz Yisrael really don't begin until after the 14 years of kibush v'chiluk, the 14 years of conquest and division of the land. So Korban Pesach they really didn't have to bring until 14 years after they crossed the Yarden. So these two times were special mitzvahs by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The Kadosh Baruch Hu told Moshe to do that Korban Pesach. That's the famous Korban Pesach when people came to Moshe and Pashas Baloscha and said, so what if we're Tomei? We want to also be able to bring Korban Pesach. And he said there's such a thing as Pesach Sheni. And now this time when we cross the Yarden. That's one approach. The other approach is that, no, they really were chayiv to do Korban Pesach all along. Why did they not do it? Why did they not do it in the Midbar? Because there's a pasuk in the Torah at the end of Parshas Bo that says, if you have children or slaves who are not circumcised, you cannot bring the Korban Pesach. You see the consequence and the connection of not having circumcised in the Midbar. Since Rov B'nai Yisrael did not do Bris Milah, Rov B'nai Yisrael couldn't bring the Korban Pesach, so he didn't bring the Korban Pesach. That's what many of the Rishonim say according to that.
But for the first 12 years in the desert, you wouldn't have had any man over 13.
No, you don't need men over 13. You have a baby, 8 days old, that you do Bris Milah to, then you can't bring the Korban Pesach.
If there's one of those, also you can.
Right, you can't bring. Look at the bottom of the page here on page 43, which is from the Ramban, over there in Parshas Baloscha.
Well, was there my wife asked, was there a mass circumcision as we were leaving Egypt also?
Yeah.
Okay,
Not
so
as we believe in. In order to bring that first Korban Pesach. In order to bring that first Korban Pesach, the Torah said, Kol oreh lo yochal bo. If you're not circumcised, you can't eat.
So there's some kind of a mirror almost of Yitzias Mitzrayim here.
Yeah, there's Yitzias Mitzrayim, right, and there's Bias Aretz. Before we left, right, it's like bookends. Before we left, we did Milah and Pesach. We came in, we do
And
Milah
there's
and
also
Pesach.
the splitting of the waters. You had going
Right,
out of Egypt
right,
and
right.
the Yarden. There's something going on here that somehow this is, that whole
Right,
period.
the same
is-
process to get out of Mitzrayim is the same process to get into the land. Yes, continue.
I don't know.
Okay,
I'm
neither
just
do
like
I.
thinking there's
Neither
a
do
lot of
Yeah.
parallels, so there
Yeah.
must be some kind of connection.
Right. Let's look at the Ramban at the bottom of the page. If it's 2 lines, we can read it. Al das Rabbeinu lo osu osa el b'shonos u'bulvad. They only did the Korban Pesach this year. Shelo hayu yicholin lasosa. They couldn't have done it anymore. Lefisha noldu lahem banim, because they had children born to them, avodim, and they had avodim born. V'lo yochlu lima losa. And they could not do bris milah mitatam sheskiru for the reason mentioned. Shohei lahem l'sakona was a danger commotion before the Yevamos, Mesech Yevamos, which is the Gemara that we cited before.
Why about them did they have?
They had avodim, and they took with them out of Mitzrayim.
They did it.
Yeah.
Why would they were the Avadim. Where'd they get Avadim?
You know, it's the Avdus in Mitzrayim, which is not really a nice topic, it's not kosher. It sounds like they had wealth, it was forced servitude, but it wasn't slavery. It was slavery, forced servitude, but not so kosher. It wasn't like
They had to go out and build a piece of Ramses, but they had a cleaning lady at home?
Mhm.
Yeah. Personal
Egyptian.
Sounds good to me.
I
What
don't
does
know.
that mean? What does that mean? How did they have Egyptians working for them also?
No, I don't know. I was joking.
And they came with them?
Filipinos.
They came with them?
Yeah. Yeah, they had a button. The Torah had a button there. The Torah
Who
talks
was
in
that
Parshas
button?
Bo.
Who says ever Kanani? Maybe it's never.
That people, but there was a slave trade. People, you would buy a cow, you buy a leaven, you buy a shifter.
Yeah, but how did they have any money to buy anything?
Who said it?
Well, they
They
took,
took
I mean, they
it.
had money,
They
and
had
they
lots of
left
money.
that, and they left.
See, it wasn't
That was
that
funny.
funny. I don't know if they
Why do you know
had any money.
something about never did? Why do you say
What?
Why do you say it's never Kanani?
No, Never Ivri is a regular, the halacha doesn't apply. An Never Ivri is a free person. That halacha doesn't apply. If I have an Never Ivri who's for some reason not circumcised, it's not going to prevent me from bringing Korban Pesach. Only Eved Kanani.
Only Eved Kanani will prevent you from, but not Eved Ivri?
Right.
That doesn't make any sense.
No, I don't own an Eved Ivri.
But he's a Jew, at least, and he's a...
Yeah, but I don't own him, so I'm not responsible for him to the same degree I'm responsible with Eved Kanani. An Eved Kanani is a semi-gerus, is a semi-convert.
Right.
Because he's chayv mitzvahs kedusha, and I own him, body and soul, literally.
Right.
It's not an Eved Ivri. An Eved Ivri is a free person in that sense. There's a Meshech Chochmah says if we take the approach that they were not chayv in Korban Pesach until they came to Eretz Yisrael and after the 14 years of Kibush and Pilug. So then the question is, why did HaKadosh Baruch Hu tell them to do the Korban Pesach the second year and when they came into the land? He says an amazing thing. He says, you find in Sefer Malachim, you find there are two times that the Torah emphasizes a tremendous Korban Pesach, mass Korban Pesach that was done by Chizkiah HaMelech and by Yoshua. And each time that it's mentioned there, it's mentioned after Chizkiyahu followed his father Achaz, who had spread Avodah Zarah throughout the land. Chizkiyahu comes and obliterates the Avodah Zarah and makes a big deal of Korban Pesach. Same thing, Yoshua follows Menashe, even though Menashe did Tshuva, but there's still plenty of Avodah Zarah that Yoshua obliterates, and he makes the Korban Pesach. He says, in Mitzrayim also, the idea of Korban Pesach is to emphasize our belief in that HaKadosh Baruch Hu runs the world, is master of the world. The God who came down in Egypt and knows the difference between an Egyptian Bechor and a Jewish Bechor, and between who is a Bechor and who is not a Bechor. That level of Hashgacha Pratis, of passing over the houses, when you see the Emunah, that goes together with Pesach. So the Meshech Chochmah says, the Meir Simcha, the Vince, says that any time there's the Kadosh Baruch Hu wants to emphasize our emunah in Hashgacha Pratis, our emunah in his specific involvement with us in this world, then he tells us to do Korban Pesach, so that after the Chet Egel, Korban Pesach, that was the first Korban Pesach we did at the Midbar, the second year in the Midbar after the Chet Egel. Going into the land, we were just nifshal in worshiping Ba'or because the Benos Moab and the Benos Midian seduced us to worship Ba'or. Right after Ba'or, to cleanse us from any shemetz, any remnant of Avodah Zarah, we had to do the Korban Pesach. A very beautiful Meshech Chochmah, understanding that Korban Pesach is not just the separation of us and the Goyim, but it's the idea of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's Hashgacha Pratis. Now the world HaKadosh special Hashgacha Pratis to Klal Yisrael that differs from his relationship with the other nations. And that's why HaKadosh Baruch Hu did these korbanos Pesach. Of course, you had what Sharon says, the bookends of it, but that doesn't really answer the second year. The second year in the Midbar, that answers the Pesach Mitzrayim and the Pesach in Gilgal when we crossed the Yarden. Yes?
But they must have done then MBYLA in the Midbar by the second year. In order to make sure all the Jews are Kamala, they had to have also this MBYLA.
Right.
So why was it possible to do that?
Why was it possible the second year? The language of the Ramban is that they didn't do afterwards because Rov Klal Yisrael were not able to eat for the Korban Pesach. But
So
that first year, now also, see, it depends. If you say because
if Rov plans to pay for Pesach, then it's basically nullified, isn't it?
if you say because of travel, then it doesn't make sense that they did Bris Milah even before that second year, but it were only a few. So those people who couldn't,
Why is it only a few?
what?
Why would
How many
it be a
people
few?
gave birth that first year? It was not Rov of Klal Yisrael. It was only Rov of Klal Yisrael. Once Rov of Klal Yisrael couldn't bring the Korban Pesach, they weren't chayav to bring the Korban Pesach. That's the way the Ramban understands the Gemara. Okay, let's continue. At the end of this parakeh, last highlight of parakeh, Yehoshua finds himself outside Yericho. Finds himself outside Yericho. If you have a Navi, it's worthwhile seeing it inside. Pasuk Yud Gimel in parakeh. Vayihi b'Yehoshua b'Yericho. When Yehoshua was in Yericho, and he wasn't in Yericho, so it means on the outskirts of Yericho, Vayisa Edav Bayar, he saw, V'hinei ish omeid l'negdo. There's a man standing opposite him, v'charbo shlufa b'yodo, with a drawn sword. V'yel Yeshua Elov, Yeshua went in, V'yomer lo, halonu ato im l'tzaredo, you with us or against us? Okay? V'yomer, he says, lo, no. Right? No means neither, it seems. Ki ani sar tzeva Hashem, I am the general of Hashem's army. Atovasi, I have now come. Right? And he tells Yehoshua to take off his shoe. Interesting, in Pasuk Tesvav, look, Vayomer Sas Hashem Yehoshua Shal Na'alcha Me'al Raglecha. Do you see the difference between what he told Moshe, what Hashem tells Moshe? Moshe Shal Na'alecha Me'al Raglecha.
It is Na'alcha.
Take your shoes, here's take your shoe. Right? See, I'm welcome Hashem to Omeid Olav Kodeshu. It's holy because I'm an angel. Is it because I'm an angel? It can't be because it's Eretz Yisrael. You can't walk, no such halacha that I was like the snare. Why do you take them off, right? He said, take off your shoe. Let me go backwards. First I want to tell you one of my favorite.
But he said Raglecha is singular from one?
Yeah. Raglecha is singular. Na'alcha is
Na'alcha is singular.
Raglecha is plural. Yeah. Okay, the Rishonim point this out. But I'll tell you one of my favorite I like when there's from the Das Kenim MBYLA Tosfos near Parsha Shemos by the snare. Tosfos asks, and I love this. Tosfos asks a very obvious question on the pasuk. The pasuk Shal Na'alecha Me'al Raglecha. Take your shoes off your feet. Tosfos says, why does it have to be Me'al Raglecha? Did HaKadosh Baruch Hu really have to explain to Moshe where his shoes were? That he shouldn't take the shoes off his ears or off his nose? You have to say Me'al Raglecha, to say Shal Na'alecha, take off your shoes. What's Me'al Raglecha? So Tosfos says, L'fi sheyesh Na'al Sha'al Hayad. Na'al isn't only on the feet. There is a na'al that is on the hand. Shekorin belaz jant. As in a gauntlet. Running the gauntlet, you run by, they take the gloves, right? The hard leather gloves, and they hit you. There's a na'al, and na'al in man'ul is a lock. So na'al is something that closes the extremities. So there's a glove that's on the hand, and it's called na'al hayat. And there's Na'al Harego. So if Hashem would have just said Shal Na'alecha, Moshe would have taken off his gloves. Right? So you have to say, I'm talking about your shoes. Here is the best part of it all. Best part of it all. Megillas Rus. You have the same. The Nasi of Klal Yisrael. The Nasi of Klal Yisrael is doing a Kinyan Suda transaction to buy the rights to redeem the fields and to marry Rus. Now, I've been Masada Kedushin many, many times. Right? Now, my wife, the Eshes Chayil, tries to make sure that when I leave the house, I have a clean handkerchief. So when we're doing the Kinyan at the Tish, right, it's a clean handkerchief. Right? So sometimes I don't have a handkerchief, I'll use a pen. Right? Or sometimes I'll use my yarmulke. I've yet to take off my shoe. Right? I think it'll be quite gauche, right? For me to say, I've got my handkerchief here. Let's do a kinyan with my shoe. Can you imagine the Nasi of Klal Yisrael, right? Sholav ish nalo v'nasan l'reyehu. Tosfos says, v'hu hana'al shenosan Boaz lagoel. Boaz gave the glove, not the shoe. I love this Tosfos. It wasn't a shoe, it was his glove. It's a beautiful white glove. They gave it to do the kinyan with it. I'm just not bringing the glove to the chassan's dish. Anyways, what's the significance of this whole encounter of the whole encounter with the Malach. So Ramban says, a very sadistic Ramban. By the Chet HaEgel, so Hashem, besides wanting to annihilate Kal Yisrael, Hashem tells Moshe, in the Parshas Mishpatim, you can't expect my level of leading you to be me the whole time. It's going to be through a Malach. I work through Malachim, that's the way I work. And Moshe Rabbeinu says, "Mein panecha holchim al taleinu miseh." No, we had a deal. You are taking us through the Midbar. If you're not doing it, I ain't going. So Kadosh Baruch Hu says, "Okay, kol yimei chayecha, as long as you're alive, I will do it. But after your death, it's a Malach." And Ramban says this was the changing of the guard. Outside Yericho, Malach says, "I'm here. Take over." And these starts with Hashem. Rashi says it was Michael. Ato Bossi. I'm here. I'm in charge now. I'm in charge.
But I thought all the other nations had
Right.
Malachim guiding them with Israel as Hashem directly. What's the deal here?
Yes, it's still Hashem directly up there, but there's a level of Hashgacha Pratis that went down a notch. I can't really explain it in rational terms, but that's on these sides of Hashem Ato Abasi. Now the truth is, the Ramban points out, the Malach tells him nothing other than take off your shoes. Malach says nothing.
Sure.
You there? Nothing. It says on these sides of Hashem. He says that was the message. The message was on these sides of Hashem Ato Abasi. Okay, let's go. Yericho, and the walls came tumbling down. So Hashem gives Moshe, or gives Yehoshua instructions about how they are to conquer Yericho. And the Navi goes into great detail of what they did, how they marched. They had Gad and Ruvain first, because they promised they're going to go first. Then you had Kohanim, 7 Kohanim, each holding a shofar. And then you had the Aron and everybody else. And they make each day a hakafa around Yericho. The most significant aspect of that hakafa, which is mind-boggling, is they were given instructions: no talking, do not make a sound. Not make a sound. Now, picture yourself on the ramparts of Yericho. Right? There's the enemy who's there to conquer you. They're not, they're not building ramparts. They're not, they're not laying siege. They're not, battering rams, and they're not, catapulting. They're not doing anything other than making each day, for 6 straight days, they're making a hakafa.
And the people are just standing there. They're just watching this.
But they blew shofar.
Yeah, they weren't shooting arrows or anything else.
So what are they thinking?
I don't know. They're not these crazy
scared.
Jews. Crazy Jews not doing
No,
nothing.
they're not.
They're scared.
They heard about the crazy upshot. They're dead scared.
Right. I mean, yeah, they're probably they're doing some heebie-jeebies on us, but
But they blew shofar.
only 7 days.
Only 7 days.
Yeah. So then on the 7th day, which was Shabbos, which is significant, as we'll see, on the 7th day, Kadosh Baruch Hu says that now we do it 7 times around Yericho. I don't know how big Yericho was. 7 hakafas around Yericho, and then when I give you the signal, everybody's to shout. And the Kohanim are to blow the shofars, then everybody shouted, then blow the shofars, and the walls came tumbling down. Okay? This is how the Navi describes what happened when they conquered Yericho, and Yehoshua gives them instructions to go save Rachav. They save Rachav, and a significant part of what's going on here, which is going to impact the next parak for next week, is that Yehoshua declares a cherem. Yehoshua declares a cherem, declares that everything that you're not allowed to keep from the plunder of Yericho. Anything that's alive is to be destroyed, and all precious stuff, gold and silver, are to be dedicated for the Mishkan, for the Beis Hashem. Nobody's allowed to take anything for themselves, and we know that gets us into trouble later. But a few very interesting things. Take a look on page 45. from the Sida Tefillah Rokeach. He says, Kach hoya Yehoshua onov. In his pirush on the Tefillah, on Aleinu, says Yeshua was a big onov. The Yosad Aleinu. Yeshua authored the Tefillah of Aleinu. Aleinu l'shabeach b'shmo. With his name, we know, was very common for poetical liturgy to have an acronym of names by each stanza. He did it in his name, Hosea. That was his name. His name wasn't Yehoshua. Hosea l'mafreya, backwards. The ayin is Aleinu l'shabeach. The shin is Shalosam chalkeinu. The vav is va'anachnu kairiyim. And then the hey is Hu Elokeinu Ein Od. And it's interesting, then he says there are 152 words from Aleinu until the Ol Me'atim Lach B'chabot, which is the gematria of Bin Nun, without the vav of Nun, which is really a vowel. Okay? So this is a Masorah that we have, that Yehoshua authored Aleinu, and he quotes the next from the Tshuva Sagaonim that the theme of Aleinu is a Havdalah. We're not like the other nations. We're coming now to build our own nation and our country, which is not going to look anything like any other country or any other nation.
Didn't we hear that Achad goes to Aleinu?
What? Okay, so no. So there is. I heard. I'll tell you from whom. From the English principal in Eretz Yisrael, Rabbi Wolk. That Ochlan wrote Alkei Nekaveh. Ayin Chav Nun. And he said, I remember I asked him where it was, he said, Rabbi Yaakov Emden in the Sida Beis Yaakov. Subsequent to that, I heard that Rabbi Yaakov Emden, Sida Beis Yaakov, is questionable whether or not he was the one who really wrote it. So, I don't know. And clearly, from the Rokeach, he has 152 letters through Al-Kain Nekaveh. Because on the Ol Me'atim B'chabot is the end of Al-Kain Nekaveh. Before we never have Yehoshua Kaloretz. He clearly doesn't hold that way. The Yericho. Let's talk about Yericho. Look at the bottom of the page. The Talmud Yerushalmi says that the hakafos that we do, that they did in the Beis HaMikdash, we know on the 7th day of Sukkot, corresponding to the 7th day of hakafos around Yericho, that the 7th day of Sukkot they would walk over, do hakafos with the lulav and the arav around the Mizbeach 7 times. Our minhag on Hoshana Rabbah, we also do 7 times, is Zecher Yericho. It's Zecher Yericho. Now here we come upon finding a very, very unusual, very something unusual about Yericho.
What does exactly Yericho have to do with Hoshana Rabbah?
With the Hoshana Rabbah. Why bedafka on Hoshana Rabbah? Not sure. Let's see if we can figure it out. Look at the bottom of the page is a Gemara Masechta Tamid. I'm going to read it inside. Not difficult. Miyoricho hayeshomin kol sha'ar gadol sheniftach. In the morning, when they were in Masechta Tamid, it's a fascinating Masechta. Masechta Tamid goes through the avoda in the Beis HaMikdash step by step. It's a very atypical Gemara. It's like a manual of how to do the avoda in the Beis HaMikdash. So it says, from Yericho they would hear the sound of Shar Gadol Sheniftach, the big gate of the Heichal, of the Beis HaMikdash. When they would open it, it made a sound, they would hear it in Yericho. Yericho hayeshomin kol magrefa. Magrefa was a signal for the Levium to start these great Levite symphonic orchestra, some kind of a musical instrument. Miyoricho hayeshomin kol ben arza, makish b'tzlosal. Ben arza was the one who banged the cymbals. The Mepharshim say that the name of the early ones of who had important positions in the Beis HaMikdash. All right, so whoever followed them, they used that name. So whoever was the cymbal banger was called Ben Arza. Right? Miyoricho hayeshomin kol hecholel. They would hear the sound of the flute. Miyaricho Hayeshem called Gavini Cruz. Gavini was the one who called out, it's morning, time to do the carbon tummy. Miyaricho Hayeshem Kol Ha'etz, Shasa Ben Kotin Muchni L'Kior. Ben Kotin was a Kohen who developed a system of a pulley for the kior, for the Kohanim to wash their hands and feet, and when they would lower it and raise it, they would hear the sound. Yericho Hashem called Hashir, the sound of the voices of the Levium. Yericho Hashem called Hashayfa. And the Yeshem Avkolo Shekayin Gadol B'Shoshu Maskir Hashem B'Yom HaKippurim. That they would hear the sound of the Kohen Gadol when he said the Shem Hashem, saying Yud Kei Vav Kei, the way it's supposed to be pronounced. They would hear that they would be able to smell the smell of the keteris. Now, anybody who's traveled there says, sometimes Yericho is pretty far from the holy city of Jerusalem. But turn the page. Now you have the Rabbi who says that Umari Harav HaChosid Omar. The Rabbi says his Rebbe, Harav HaChosid, I don't know who that is. The Chol Hanoch, the Katani, Shayin Nishmayim Yericho, all these things mentioned in the Gemara that were heard in Yericho, Maisa Nisim Vayim. There was Maisa Nisim, this was a nes. She Yericho Haisek Ma Yerushalayim. Yericho had a status like Yerushalayim. Ibnei Shehu Haisa Techilas Kibush Eretz Yisrael was the beginning of the conquest of the land. V'hayu Nishmayim Kol Hanoch, the Katani, and all these that are listed that were heard in Yericho was miraculously heard in Yericho, which means if you're in between, you didn't hear it. Only in Yericho did you hear it. Kadeshi Yargishu B'nei Adam, people should sense Yericho Yesh Kamo Ken Kitzas Kedusha Kamo B'Yerushalayim. That Yericho, which was the initial conquest, which the Malach outside Yericho told Yehoshua, take off your shoe, which may have been somewhat of a hint to Yehoshua. Yehoshua declared everything sacred. You can't keep anything for yourself. And Yehoshua made a curse on anybody who would rebuild Yericho for their own purposes. All right? This Maisa Nisim, this miraculous nes, was to show that Yericho had a level of kedusha similar to Yerushalayim, that there was a symbiotic relationship between Yericho and Yerushalayim. Now here's an amazing thing, which you see. When we came into Eretz Yisrael, so the land was divided among 12 tribes. Right? Kadosh Baruch Hu didn't tell us at that point where the Beis HaMikdash was to be built. Which means that the Beis HaMikdash, the territory for the Beis HaMikdash, which is going to belong to everybody, is going to be taken from one of the tribes' territories. All right? So we're going to take away some territory from one of the tribes. So what HaKadosh Baruch Hu did say was the outskirts of Yericho. The outskirts of Yericho is temporarily being given to the descendants of Yisrael. But once I determine who gets the Beis HaMikdash, that tribe will get this area outside of Yericho, which obviously was very choice real estate. So there you see also the tremendous connection between Yericho and the Beis HaMikdash. It's a tit for tat. If I take away territory from you to use for the Beis HaMikdash, I'll compensate you by giving you a piece of Yericho. Right? So this connection between Yericho and Yerushalayim is an amazing connection, which carried over through the time of the Beis HaMikdash, that there were miraculous things happening in Yericho. What is the therefore? What's the lefikach? What's the therefore? I don't know. Yericho nowadays is an Arab town. Yericho is an Arab town.
And doesn't have any kedusha to it, right?
What?
It doesn't have any kedusha anymore.
Because kedusha Eretz Yisrael. There is no halacha, despite what we just said.
Yeah, there
is no halachic status of kedusha of Yericho that I'm aware of that is above and beyond any other place in Eretz Yisrael. There isn't, not that I'm aware of. Maybe we'll understand better.
Well, there's 3 places in Sholom. that has a Yerushalayim, it's Yerushalayim. It's up north, the Sfas, no? Doesn't, aren't there other, there's 3 places in Israel? No.
I'm not aware. I'm not
That
aware.
are Malcolm cut it, maybe not like Yerushalayim, but.
Any city that was Mukav Choma, Mimos Yeshua ben Nun, has a Kedusha of Machli Yisrael. The Mitzayra is not allowed to go into that. Any city that's Mukav Choma, Mimos Yeshua ben Nun. So that's, Tveria is a suffix because of the sea. It was Mukav Choma on 3 sides. The question is, it's a halachic suffix. There are cities that are suffix. We're not certain.
Isn't Hebron also another city that has it?
Who?
Hebron?
No.
No.
No, that I'm aware of.
But if Yericho is so special and has such Kedusha, why weren't they allowed to build there? It sounds like it was a ghost town.
Well, Yehoshua made a clause that you're not allowed to build there.
Right.
What do you mean by resort?
But if it was so special.
No, it's supposed to be left as a ruin.
Uh-huh.
So who smelled?
What?
Right,
Who
so who
smelled
smelled
the
and
word?
heard?
Oh, okay, because
And why do you need that?
Yehoshua made a clause. The clause was that anyone who rebuilds Yehoshua, his firstborn will die when he builds the foundation, and his youngest son will die when he finishes the project. And in the time of Achav, Chiel built the Yehoshua, and that's exactly what happened. As a matter of fact, a very fateful event happened in Chiel's Shiva home when his youngest son died, because Achav Melech Yisrael came to be Menachem Avol Chiel, and Eliyahu Hanavi came to be Menachem Avol Chiel, and that was some encounter. And Achav tells Eliyahu, well, I see the curse, a human curse could come true, but God's curses don't come true, because God says if you worship Avodah Zarah, it's not going to rain. I've been worshiping Avodah Zarah for who knows how long. Eliyahu Navi says, oh yeah, for 3 years it ain't going to rain. You're not even going to see dew. And that's what started the whole Eliyahu Navi episode with the terrible drought, and Achav looking all over to try to kill Eliyahu. But once everybody brings a right that once it was rebuilt, there was no Eastern living there.
But someone had to be the first one and sacrifice their
The
children.
person who rebuilt it, they don't have to, they weren't supposed to rebuild it.
So the Israel was only from Yeshua, that it wasn't from Kodesh Baruch Hu.
It was, okay, so that is, according to Chazal, that's clear, that Yehoshua did it on his own.
Who gave,
Yehoshua did it. Who gave it? So the Medrash asks, what did Yehoshua, what was his reason for? So the Gemara gives 3 possible reasons. Either he felt it was like truma or challah. It's a challah. You have to take this as the first thing we're conquering, the first thing we give to Hashem. The second reason he says it was like an ir hanidachas.
Which is not.
There was ir hanidachas which should be destroyed and not rebuilt.
But it's like Eddie said in
Yeah, but this was to make a statement. That was his statement, ir hanidachas statement. And by the way, when he went to conquer Ai, the second time, Hashem told him, Yehoshua, don't let the people take from the plunder. Don't get too from. And the third reason is because
But the Yer Dach only
because it was on Shabbos.
No, the Yer Dach only was by Jews, no?
That what? The Yer Dach is only by Jews. Yeah, but it was like in there. It was conceptually in there. You're right. The third reason is he's there on Shabbos. And the Medrash points out that there's a connection between Ephraim and Chilul Shabbos for Hashem's sake. Because when they brought the karbanos by Chanukas HaMishkan, the end of Parshas Naso, each Nasi brought it on a different day. 12 Nasim, if you do the math, one of those days was Shabbos. And Yom HaShvi was the Nasi of Shevet Ephraim. And Yehoshua ben Nun was also from Shevet Ephraim. And the fact that it was brought on Shabbos, the fact that the city was conquered on Shabbos, he felt should be totally dedicated to Hashem. you take a look on the page, just, it'd be interesting, read this as homework. I hope you can read it. It should be on page 47. Well, I picked this up in the Discovery program.
Yeah, I was thinking that me or Sandy should probably read it out loud.
It's a, what, why?
Small letters.
Oh. It's, I can read it. I take out my glasses, I can read it. In the New York Times, February 22nd, 1990, there was a very prominent archaeologist in the early 1900s, Kathleen Kenyon, who did a dig in the Jericho area, and she found no evidence whatsoever of the Hebrews being there at the time that the Bible said that they should be there. And since that time, it was accepted among archaeological circles that the biblical account of the conquest of Israel by Joshua at that time was fiction. And this article, this titled Believers Score in the Battle of Jericho, that this other guy, Dr. Wood, showed that she was digging in the wrong place. And he found actually evidence, not that we need to verify the Torah, but it's interesting that he demonstrated that she was digging in the wrong place. No, there's a did I ever tell you the story of how I ended up with a picture of Jackie Robinson? Did I ever tell you the story?
A picture or a blank
What do you
card?
mean by a picture?
No,
A photo with him?
Is it on the wall next to the van, or?
No, I have a picture in my office of Jackie Robinson. I'll tell you a story. There's a fellow when I was in North Beverly Hills. There was a very fine fellow in the shul named Greg Tendler, a lawyer, very nice. You know the guy. So his father would come to visit from time to time, and I felt the kesher with him, even though it was only a few times. A very nice person, a tall guy, very stately, very gentlemanly. Not like people nowadays. I really took to him. So one day, Greg tells me, his father's in the hospital. He broke an arm. Elderly, was in his high 80s by then. So I said, okay, I'm going to go visit him. So I went to see him. And I come to I'm not visiting him. He says, Rabbi, you know how I broke my arm? No. He says, well, I was sleeping in my brother's house. Tell me some reason why he wasn't home. And I don't sleep well if I'm in a strange bed. And I had a dream. He said, Rabbi, I played basketball? He's a tall guy. Yeah, I was in starting five at UCLA in 1939. Okay. So I had a dream. And in the dream, I'm playing basketball, and my opponent goes up for a jump shot. And I jumped up and I blocked it. He got the ball back. And he went up for another jump shot, and I went up and I blocked it again. And he had the ball for the third time. And he went up for the shot. Rabbi, I can't begin to describe to you the conviction that I had when I went up to block that third shot. Like, there's no way he's getting that shot out. It's not going to happen. And he went up to shoot, and I went up to block, and the next thing I knew, I was writhing in pain on the floor. And that's how I broke my arm. So like a good rabbi, I said, Mr. Gittler, thank you so much. Now I know pshat in the Rambam. Okay? Wow. The Rambam in the Moreh Nevuchim writes that it is impossible for a human being to see a malach. Impossible for a human being to see a malach. Any time you see a malach in the Torah, it's a prophetic vision. They're not real time. A human being cannot relate to a malach. They're functioning in a different dimension. And the Rambam writes. The Rambam writes. It says in the beginning of Parshas Vayera that Hashem Hashem appeared to Avram and Elonei Mamre. What did he appear to what? What did he tell him? It doesn't say he told him anything. He appeared to him in this vision. Avram had a dream that there were three people that came, and in this prophetic vision, he served them the tongue and mustard, and they said about Sarah. It never happened. It was prophetic vision. That's the Rambam in the Moreh Nevuchim. The Ramban, on the spot, who quotes the Rambam, is apoplectic. He goes crazy. He says, it's impossible to say such a thing. It's not. And he has a bunch of questions on him. And basically the Ramban says, even though it's true that generally speaking we don't give Shalom Aleichem to Malachim, but when the Torah uses the word Ish to describe a Malach, that means that the Malach came down in the guise of a flesh and blood, so we could see him. And he gives an example over here, Yehoshua outside the Richo, Bayarki ne Ish. He saw an Ish, right? It was real time because it was a Malach, dressed like an Ish, and there in Pashayera, V'nei Shlosha Anoshim. So one of the questions that the Ramban asks on the Rambam, he says, could you please explain to me how Yaakov Avinu ended up with a limp after having a vision of a wrestling match with the Malach? So I said, you just explained it to me. You just explained it to me. How it's possible to have a dream and end up with a limp. Right. What? So a while later, he came to me and he gave me a picture of the UCLA 1939 basketball team. And Robert Gittler is on the team. And if you picture what basketball players looked like in 1939, he says, people don't know that Jackie Robinson was a three-sport star. It was not hard for me to figure out which person on that team was Jackie Robinson. Right? That was not figured out. So I still have the picture with Robert Gittler's signature, not Jackie Robinson. But Jackie Robinson's a rich man today, probably. Okay, see you next week, Reza Hashem.
One second, why do the walls and roof have to sink?
Oh, that's the Gemara. Yeah, the Gemara, beautiful Gemara. The Gemara says that the wall of Yericho sunk down; it didn't crumble. Because the Gemara says like that the wall was as thick as it was tall, so it would accomplish nothing by falling down because it would still be the same height. It had to sink in. Yeah.